We are mandated to end at 9 o'clock. Times posted on the agenda we will keep to as best as we can. For the purposes of this meeting, in the past we've had some issues with people interrupting speakers, etc. That will not be tolerated this evening. Anyone who interrupts will be notified and then ejected from the meeting. This is a quasi-governmental agency responsible for reviewing both community concerns and city agency proposals and projects, and that is the way that we are going to proceed this evening under strict rules of decorum. If you are not recognized by myself, please remain muted. Also, just try to keep yourself muted if you are speaking. It also does help to turn off your cameras to reduce lag, if that's possible. And with that, I will turn it over to Rhonda Messer from DOT to recognize presenters for a review of the item number 1, New York City DOT South Williamsburg School Safety Project. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Eric. Hi, everybody. I'm Rhonda Messer, the DOT liaison for the Brooklynburg Commissioner's Office.
We lost your mic, Rhonda.
Yeah, I think we lost you. Yeah.
You're not muted, but we lost you. I think we lost Rhonda.
Eric, I'm here from school safety to present the presentation. Would it be appropriate for me to go ahead and get started, or should we wait for Rhonda?
Wait, I'm sorry, no, but you can't hear me?
We can hear you now. You're good.
Okay, I did speak, but apparently nobody can hear me. I might have a
No, it was weird. Like you started and then your mic was open, but then it cut off even though it was open. So you could just finish up your statement and then we'll swing it over to Rochelle to do the presentation if that's okay. Oh, and we lost her again. Curious. Okay, well, I will take the prerogative of recognizing Rochelle Brahara, sorry, to present the school safety program. And Marie, if you could give her access to share her presentation, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I think she has the ability to do that. She has to check her dashboard.
Can everyone see this presentation?
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Great.
Okay. Thank you all for having us today to speak to you all about this capital project that we're planning for the South Williamsburg area in and amongst several schools nearby. We had the pleasure of presenting this to the full board a couple of weeks ago, and so we're excited to come back to the Transportation Committee and brief this with you all as transportation experts. So we're planning a capital project at 4 intersections in the neighborhood: Waldabout Street, Lynch Street, and Bedford Avenue, Waldabout Street, Lorimer Street, Lee Avenue, Division Ave, Marcy Ave, Williamsburg Street West, Union Ave, Lorimer Street, and Harrison Avenue. And all 4 of these locations are fairly complex intersections. And the reason that they've been identified as intersections for capital work is because they do require a catch basin relocation, which is outside of the scope of our DOT crews. So this project has been several years in the making. and we're finally excited to get it into the construction phase. So yeah, as I mentioned, there are 4 intersections in the neighborhood. This just identifies one school, but there, of course, are several schools in the South Williamsburg area, and we hope to improve safety for students accessing all of the various schools in the neighborhood. So Safe Routes to Schools initiative is an ongoing effort by NYC DOT. It's also a national program. So again, improving pedestrian safety around schools that have high crash histories. So to do this, we want to reduce vehicle and pedestrian conflicts and therefore reduce crashes and again, improve safety for some of the most vulnerable pedestrians who are students. In this project, we are proposing several curb extensions as well as some medians and traffic islands. This will increase visibility again for students. It'll also reduce reduce crossing distances. It'll calm turns around these corners so that students are more visible as they cross the street, and yeah, improve their visibility, and will create additional pedestrian refuge, which is helpful when the crossing distances are long. To have somewhere in the middle of the street where you can rest is really important. We will also be improving the markings. So at every intersection with concrete work, we'll also be redoing all of the markings work. We're adding ADA compliant ramps at all locations. So every single corner in the intersection will receive a new ADA compliant ramp, and we'll also be adding accessible pedestrian signals at all locations, which will make the crossing signals more accessible. So our first intersection is the intersection of Waldout Street, Lynch Street, and Bedford Avenue. Here we have existing channelized area, which will be built out in concrete, again, providing additional pedestrian refuge. And we have corners that have not yet been upgraded to have ADA compliant pedestrian ramps. So here we're proposing to build out these areas that are currently channelized. In yellow, we're proposing to shorten the crossing distance here at the intersection of Lynch and Waldout Street with this large concrete curb extension. And wherever you see in blue are areas where we're reconstructing the sidewalk and upgrading all of the ramps. The second intersection is Waldout Street, Lorimer Street, and Lee Avenue. Similarly, here we have areas with channelization that we plan to build out in concrete and ramps that have not been upgraded. And here we see the channelization from street view. So both of these areas will be built out in concrete. And we can see in plan view here, the yellow areas indicate new concrete. So again, building out these channelized areas, and the blue is where we'll be reconstructing the sidewalk and upgrading the ped ramps. So in this instance, especially, we're creating pedestrian refuge in the middle of these long crossings. The third intersection, another fairly complex intersection, is Division Avenue, Marcy Avenue, and Williamsburg Street West. Here we see, again, long crossing distances and a multi-legged intersection, which increases conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians. There's also the slip lane here that has been closed with a Jersey barrier, and we plan to actually open that back up and improve traffic flow, and I'll show you that in a moment. And here you can see that there's a crossing with no pedestrian ramp. So we plan to add pedestrian ramps, again, to make these crossings accessible. And here's some other instances of a missing pedestrian ramp or a pedestrian ramp that has not yet been updated. So in this plan, you can see how, again, we're planning to build out these concrete curb extensions in yellow here at the corner of Marcy Avenue and Division Avenue. You can also see how we're planning to build out the existing concrete island to be larger to provide greater refuge for students and for everyone accessing this intersection. Also, by removing this Jersey barrier, we're opening up traffic flow for traffic that's making for vehicles that are making a left-hand turn onto Williamsburg West. It's a hairpin turn as is, and in the current condition, you can see how vehicles that need to make that turn will cross three crosswalks to access Williamsburg Street West by opening up the Jersey barrier and expanding the pedestrian island. Will be minimizing those conflicts by only and they would only be crossing one crosswalk in that instance. So again, we're opening this slip lane up for travel, which will improve traffic flow and will reduce conflicts between pedestrians and vehicles. The final intersection is Union Avenue, Lorimer Street, and Harrison Avenue. So again, another fairly complex intersection with areas in channelization to be built out. And here's channelization in the street view. And here we see an existing upgraded ped ramp, but with no crossing, with no crosswalk. So in our comprehensive update, we will be updating the markings at this intersection as well. So here we have proposed this curb extension along Harrison Avenue between Union and Lorimer Street, again in the channelization that is currently existing. And we plan to build out this smaller curb extension here at the corner of Lorimer Street and Union Avenue. And this again will help shorten crossing distances and improve pedestrian visibility. Right, so all of the work that we're doing is within street boundaries and New York City DOT jurisdiction. So we won't, there are no conflicts in the right of way. And the reason why this work is in capital work and is not being done in-house is because of the utility work. So we will be relocating signals and light poles as necessary and relocating and replacing catch basins and where necessary. So all of these 4 locations here in South Williamsburg are part of a much larger scope of projects. So we actually have 17 locations that are involved in this project, and they're kind of scattered throughout Brooklyn and Staten Island at other high crash locations. So we're aiming to complete this design next summer and fall, so about a little less than a year from now. And then we anticipate construction to begin in spring 2023. And the entire construction schedule for all 17 locations will span about 2 years. So at some point during those 2 years, these 4 locations will be built in South Williamsburg, and they'll take each about 2 to 4 months at each location, depending on the complexity. So that's all for me, and I'm eager to hear any questions that you might have. Thanks.
Thank you, Rochelle. You said that you plan to have the work done by summer of 23. Is that right? Did I hear you right?
Yeah, so construction will begin in summer 2023. And for the entire project, which is several locations throughout Brooklyn and Staten Island, it will take 2 years to complete. So sometime between spring 2023 and summer 2025, this work will be complete, and we can update the community board as to the schedule.
Okay, is there a reason that you're not able to start the work spring of 22?
Yeah, so this capital projects have a much longer timeline as in terms of design and approvals, and since since this work is taking many more resources with all of the catch basins and the signal work that's happening, it just has a longer approval process. So normally our projects can go in at a much faster timeline, but since this is capital work, it takes longer.
I'm sorry, approval by whom?
Right, so it has to go through approvals at state, so New York State DOT, because I believe the funding source is federal.
Federal DOT and state DOT have to sign off before you can even get started.
That's right, and I think MD is on the call. MD, are you able to add any more information to what I just said?
Hi, Rochelle. This is MD. Yes, so like as you said, any capital project we need a little bit longer time because DDC actually they are doing the design and consultant AECOM they are working for DDC. So as long as we finish the final design and then project go to the comptroller office when STDUT they approve the final design because of the funding issue. So when comptroller office finally they will get the registration, then we'll move forward for the actual construction. That's why it takes a long time.
All right. So you're also working with DDC and probably DEP too, right? Because we have the catch basins.
Yes, the DEP also included with this yes, with this project. So actually, DDC, they are our design team,
Sure.
and consultant AECOM, they're working for DDC. So when we have right now we are in final design, so we are coordinating all agencies as necessary, like DEP also.
Okay. All right. Do you have to go to state environmental for this at all, or no? It's all in the city.
We have right now a state multimodal fund. Yes. So one point we need to share our final design drawing for their review and approval.
Got it. Okay. I think that's it for me. Committee members, anyone? So I'll ask everyone right now to look at your dashboard, and if you find the little happy face guy, that is how you raise your hand. So I will ask committee members to please raise your hand for recognition.
This is Simon. I have a computer. You hear me, Simon? You hear me?
I got you, Simon.
Okay, sorry.
Simon, this is your backyard, and I'd ask you to take a look at it with some other of the committee members from the South Side and Rabbi and etc. Do you have any comments for this presentation?
Yes. Just if I'm not in town. I mean, I'm out of town, so I'm just have a question to the project that they want to do on Lynch and Wallabout. Could I'm sorry, who was the presenter from DOT? What's her name?
It's Rochelle.
Rochelle, I'm sorry. So Rochelle, can you look at that together?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm just pulling it up here.
Right. So with the traffic currently, some traffic coming down Wallabout will make a left onto this Lynch, right? So the way how the picture looks is that you are building out the left side of. So when a car makes the left, you're building out more the left side. So the traffic has to move over. See what I'm saying? My idea would be to build out the island more so that the traffic can just make that just go that easy left like this. They have to do like a sharp left. You see what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
I think so. So if you're traveling, go ahead.
It's used for traffic coming down Wallabout and want to make that left, right? But if it's so you have an option to make the entrance to that wide entrance either the right side of the street or the left side. I would suggest more that it should be more to the left because it's more to the right. The cars have to swing in. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking the left onto Bedford. Yes, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, so that's actually the magic of this curb extension is that it calms these left turns.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
yeah, so when students are crossing here, it not only shortens the crossing distance, but also makes them more visible to drivers. So that they're making more of a making more of a right angle turn, they're crossing the crosswalk at a right angle, and they're more likely to see a student pedestrian crossing than if they're
Right. Okay. That's great. I get the point. It makes sense. Also, did DOT consider around the island to make a bit wider the pedestrian way? Because I know for a fact there were some accidents. Like there's a bus stop over there, and people coming off the bus. It's very, very short path on the island. I would suggest the same time. I don't know if it has to do with you or parks because there's like a center small green area. So I don't know. Maybe you should look at it as well for safety. Both sides of the island, the width of the pedestrians, I think, should be a bit wider. You get what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, and I see that we are widening it widening.
Yeah.
That's hard for me to say. We're making it a little. We are making it slightly wider here, and I think
Okay.
in the extension we're providing pure pedestrian space. So I know that there's a green area kind of in the middle of this island, but by expanding it on all sides, we're expanding that concrete only space for pedestrians. So I hope
Right.
that helps.
Michelle,
Okay, great. Now
that blue area inside the island, is that there for existing, or
That's right.
that's just
Sorry,
existing,
so
right?
it's existing. We will be updating it.
Right.
So
Okay. So
we'll
there
be
will be
replacing
more
all that.
space for pedestrians to kind of hang out and wait.
That's right.
And that's a stop sign at Lynch westbound, southwest to Wallabout, right? That's a stop sign at the intersection? No, next,
I believe-
further west.
Further west, excuse me. So Lynch and Bedford, you said?
No, Lynch and Wallabout, where
Lynch and
the two curb extensions are.
Ah, yeah, sorry.
That's a stop sign
this
right
is
now, right?
No,
It's a light, or there's nothing.
nothing
believe
there.
it's not. Okay.
Okay. Will we be adding a stop sign there?
No,
It
since
seems
this
odd
is
that there is no stop sign.
yeah, I
or
understand
control.
that. No control, right? So since this is a left turn, um, and since it is so close to this light, we normally wouldn't control this because it's in a way. But I understand what you're saying. It
Is it
would
a yield? I mean, there
function
has
like
to be
it.
some kind of something there, right?
No, so yeah, so when it's when it's an away street like Lynch is, there's sometimes no stop control, especially if it's in close proximity to an intersection.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I also have another point regarding your extended on Bedford and Wallabout. Okay, on the two sides of the street, on the right side and on the left side. So I understand it's for safety, which is very important, but won't this have a great effect on the traffic? Because now the traffic coming down Bedford makes a left onto Wallabout. Now, if they're going to make the left from the center, it's a great safety barrier. But I'm just wondering if this won't affect the traffic. I mean, to save a life, it doesn't make a difference. But I just want to understand if there's another way of doing it, But just for the discussion, because if you're going to build out the left side and the right side, won't they make a backup? The traffic will have to squeeze by two lanes. Isn't that? Does that make sense?
So you're saying if you're traveling on Bedford and you want to make a left onto Wallabout?
Right, left or right onto Wallabout, either or.
Right.
Right. So as of now, there's 4 lanes or 3 lanes. We're going to build out both sides. It means that the traffic coming down Bedford will only have 2 lanes to pass by. And as of now, the whole area is always backed up. But was that taken into consideration?
Simon, just to be clear, I think that blue area is existing. That's just going to be made ADA compliant, right? That's not the blue is not built out, right? That's existing. That's not going to change. It's just going to get ADA ramps. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. And then sorry, go ahead.
Simon, are you thinking that that's a build out to the blue area?
Right. That's not
it's
so.
Not.
No?
It's not. It's going to stay the same. It's just going to get ramps for ADA compliant. So it's not going to squeeze. From what I understand, and Rochelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not going to shrink the travel lanes at all. It's just going to make it more accessible for wheelchairs and people that need a little extra help getting across. Right.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everything in blue, the curb line's not changing. Sorry.
So there's no build out on the two corners of Bedford and Wallabout. Is that so?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right. Thank you. Again, and I know how much. Just to thank DOT. I know how much work was put into all this. And at this intersection, it should be mentioned. Maybe Eric, the chair, mentioned it before. But at this intersection, a child of Wallabout and Bedford. Forgot the name of the child. Many years ago, Sabbath morning, a car making a left. hit the child and passed. A child passed out. So it's a great work DOT has put into this and all the other intersections. It's we really appreciate what you do for upgrading the safety of the communities. Thank you.
I'm so sorry to hear that happened. Yeah, I really hope that this helps with visibility. That's always very tragic. Very sorry.
All right.
Thank you, Simon. Anything else, Simon? You good?
No, good to go. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Committee. I can't. Oh, there we go. Okay. Ryan has her hand raised. Looks like Ryan is the only taker. Oh, Willis, I see you. I have to scroll to find people, so bear with me. Okay, Ryan, Ryan, and then Willis, please. Ryan, go ahead.
Hey, I wanted to say thank you. The safety improvements are great. These are lots of streets I bike on all the time. And I had one question. Because it's a school safety program, I was curious if when the planning was happening, if it was also looked at with a climate resiliency eye, like if any of these areas are in flood zones. I know there was a little bit talk about the catch basins, but if that was taken into account with the plantings and all of that.
Yeah, so are you referring to bioswales that are implemented by DEP? Yeah, those are really great. And given the recent flooding that we experienced, yeah, I know that we need more flood mitigation. This project is purely street safety, and DOT's purview is simply about the roadway. And this project was also designed several years ago, I think maybe before that was a part of our collective consciousness. There are no plans as of yet to include these bioswales in there, but I really encourage you to submit 311 requests or contact, if you're able to get in touch with DEP and request that. That's really their purview.
Right on. Thank you.
Have time since DDC is still figuring this all out and working with DEP to get that in there if possible, right? We have a 18-month window to try to make that happen.
So since this project is so prolonged and stretched out, we're actually reaching the end of our design phase, and I don't believe that we have the funds to do that. MD, could you confirm that that we're unable to put in bioswales in this project?
Yes, so before RGD sign up, schematic unit design, and we shared our plans with our green infrastructure team, and they coordinated with the DEP, but DEP said they don't have any plan right now to include any stormwater or bioswale, any kind of issue. But we are right now we are in final design, so still we are coordinating. When we have MM1, MM2, we'll share with the DEP if they have any issue. We'll address that.
Thank you. Ryan, anything else? No. All right, Mr. Elkins, go ahead.
Thanks, Eric. I mean, I was just going to follow up on that. I mean, I refuse to believe that this is not an opportunity to do green infrastructure. And the fact that there's not greater coordination between DOT, who, as you mentioned, controls all of the sidewalks and the roadbeds. DEP has installed thousands and thousands of rain gardens around the city, and they're also doing other ones that are not rain gardens, that are still stormwater infiltration basins. And this is actually one of the zones. There are certain areas of the city where they're not working. This is actually one of the areas where they are working, and they're literally installing these projects right now within blocks of of the proposed improvements here. And it's not really it shouldn't be on us as community members to reach out to DEP about this. There needs to be interagency coordination. If there is massive concrete work happening at these intersections, it needs to be integrating this really necessary work. And the other aspect of it too is that DEP they are obligated by New York State to be collecting a certain amount of stormwater, and again in these priority zones. So this is such a no-brainer because it would be saving the agencies, it would be saving DEP money, because if they come back in 2 years and they say, wow, there's an opportunity to do something here, and they didn't do it now when you're actually doing this you know, intensive work. I just don't understand it. I'm going to put a bunch of links in the chat for the co-host, and I'm happy to follow up by email. But I personally would not support this project without the commitment from DOT that there's going to be real coordination with DEP to collect stormwater. We're talking like large, especially with all the new catch basins. It's just kind of mind blowing that the state of the reality we're in. The Navy Yard receives over like 500 million gallons of untreated sewage every single year because of these areas don't collect stormwater, and that's why it's a priority zone. So that's my rant, and you know, that's the motion I'm going to make, is that we support. We're obviously really into the safety, but DOT cannot be so narrowly focused that you're only concerned about the movement of pedestrians and cyclists and cars when streets are flooding.
Totally get that. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That's very understandable. MD and maybe Rhonda can speak better to this issue than I can. But from what I understand, DEP has their priorities and their own schedule. And I think that they do coordinate with capital projects when the schedules align. So it's possible that they have more projects in the pipeline that they'll integrate into this project. But I'll let MD and maybe Rhonda speak more to that process because I'm less aware of that than they are.
Hi, this is MD Hassan. So usually any capital project, when we scoping the project, we share our scope everything with all other agencies, including DEP. But my understanding this, because this is multi-site project, like intersection by intersection, this is not corridor-wide project. When it's corridor-wide project, then DEP is much more interested to come back there is managing a stormwater or something green infrastructure or bioswall issue. But as far as I know, that the school safety project, this is multi-site, is not like along the like a whole corridor project. So that's why much more time they are not interested to come back to put anything. This is my understanding. But here also DDC team here. So Charles, if you have any idea, please explain to us. Charles, are you hearing?
Hi. Yeah, I hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay. Yes, there is coordination with DEP on the onset of these projects. They do look at them. If they're within a favorable area, they will incorporate bioswales in the project. It wasn't found in these areas to add any in or any storm drain improvements of that nature. We are upgrading some of the catch basins that are in that need to be relocated and stuff like that. And we will be cleaning the facilities when we're there. So, I mean, but there is definitely from the beginning of the project, there is DEP coordination with this, and we do go over this with them, the areas that they've hit that are their prime targets, and this area did not show up in their analysis for this.
Thanks, Charles.
Okay, Willis, did you have a follow-up? Thank you, Mr. McKieran.
Thank you. I just don't. I feel like there's constantly this pointing the finger at the other agencies, and we need to be working together on these issues. I don't know. I think it's a major shortcoming. So whatever. I know we have time, so I'll stop my rant. Thank you.
That's maybe since we have a long timeline for the start on this, I know the design phase is closing soon, but unlikely to be finished by the end of the year. I think it's safe to say, and maybe in December we can have DEP in to take a look at this with us, or maybe take it up if Mr. Chesler, who was on the call, is willing to bring them in for an environmental committee meeting. Maybe we can talk about some way to coordinate that conversation. Okay, so let's see. Anybody else with hands raised? I see Kevin Costa. I see Maria Domerick. And I see William Vega. We will go Mary, William, and then Kevin. And if you've had a chance to speak, please take your hand down. And just noting the time, it is 7:10. We've spent about a half an hour on this, so we're going to wrap it up after Kevin. So go ahead.
So Eric, I have this crazy glitch on this phone that keeps popping up my hand.
Oh, okay.
It isn't raised.
I remember.
That was
I
problem
remember.
last time, so only if you hear my voice, okay?
All right, good. All right. William, please.
Thank you, Eric. I just want to second what Willis said. There's certain areas that were designed to, to handle flooding. I'm thinking about Fourth Avenue and Carroll Street. The work was done there, with design and construction, DOT, environmental. But these areas were flooded prior to Ida. I mean, the formula they're using is old. Climate change has changed everything. It's accelerated. In my culture, and I'm sure other cultures, you always say, you got to be careful when you're cutting something because the left hand does not talk to the right hand. It's inexcusable that these agencies don't talk to each other. And these areas that we're talking about, I know businesses that were flooded. So it's real. And I'm going to talk to Steve. Both of them need to sit on the table and put these measures in place because IDERs are in our, not once in a lifetime. They're going to be, every year we're going to be experiencing serious storms. And then I know one area, everybody was talking about Ida, but the 3 storms prior to that, they were flooded. So I just, again, second what Willis said, and Eric, please talk to Steve. We need to have DEP and DOT work. This is an opportunity to be proactive. I'm tired of us always having to react to situations. We know what's coming. Let's be proactive. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Kevin, go ahead.
Hi. First off, thanks, MD. Thanks, Charles, for answering our questions thus far. I just want to echo what the previous 3 speakers have commented on and say that this isn't the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last time, but design phase is ending because DOT has come to the community board at the end of the design phase is not an appropriate excuse. So I have a couple of questions. Is there any sort of visibility, any transparency that you can provide regarding what kind of coordination was done between DEP and DOT via email correspondences or meetings that you had that you can share? And then what can we do, despite the fact that, as Willis mentioned, we shouldn't have to, as community members, be, watchdogging over DEP and DOT to ensure that things like this are happening. But what can we go about to do to ensure that there is more coordination? Is an amended CP possible? We see, far too often millions and millions of dollars spent on change orders and amended CPs because on the front end there wasn't enough coordination between DEP, between the utilities, and other agencies, DDC and DOT, and this happens all of the time. So I'm kind of looking for answers and some more transparency because, saying like, oh, this was out of scope for the project isn't cutting it. Is design build kind of an answer where maybe the same contractor that's designing the project is the one constructing it? Like what exactly can we do to change the capital coordination process to like actually ensure that this is, incorporated into the project earlier, that DOT and DDC and DEP are working with these outside design consultancies to ensure that, the community is actually, that our concerns are going to be met before, an entire project over one specific thing, pedestrian crossings, is met. I hope that, there's some sort of answers. I'm hoping one of you can opine on that. But
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, thank
Anybody?
you, Kevin. Oh, sorry. I was just going to pass it off to Charles to speak more about the coordination. It sounds like there was a fair amount of coordination, and this may just not be on, this area may not be on their radar for whatever reason, but I'll let Charles speak more about that.
Mute me. Hi. The preliminary investigations is coordinated between DEP and DOT. There is discussion about where the green infrastructure is going in And this is done way before the CPI has come out for the project, CPI being the Capital Project Initiative. Once we receive the project, any concerns by DEP is noted where they are putting green infrastructure that's closely coordinated. This area was not in their radar. They do have another chance and opportunity to look at it. This design has been sent to them, which was sent last week. And they have 45 days to comment on it. And we have an alignment meeting, which is an overall meeting between all the city agencies to discuss this project and discuss any future plans that DEP may have with this. So they do have another opportunity to look at this, and that'll be closely coordinated with DOT and DDC as part of the progress as this project progresses.
May I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So when are those meetings scheduled? So 45 days to opine, and then there's an alignment meeting. Has that alignment meeting been scheduled, and can you keep us in the loop of when it will be scheduled, if not?
It has been scheduled for December 15th. It's a meeting that's going to be held virtual. It's more of a interagency and utility meeting because it's not only with all the city agencies, it's also with all your utility companies. There's a lot of utility conflicts with projects of this nature, and that's what we have to work out. But it's also an opportunity for DOT, DEP to bring out any issues that have come up with this project.
And there's no, is that a public meeting?
No, it's a interagency meeting with the utility companies.
Got it. Okay. Are you accepting comments before that meeting?
You actually will be able to submit comments. The plans will be sent to the community board within the next 2 weeks. And you will have an opportunity to make comments on that. And we look forward to any comments that we receive. And we'll share that with all the agencies as required.
Okay, so that'll be shared with the board office before the December 15th meeting for anyone that would like to submit comments can, yes?
You can submit the comments. You can even submit it afterwards if you're not able to have a meeting beforehand, but we do take those comments very serious.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Kevin. It is 7:20. Is there anyone from the public that wants to comment on this? I will entertain brief comments from the public. I see Kevin Lachera. Anybody else? Okay, Kevin, go ahead. You have 1 minute.
All right. Yeah. Hi, Kevin Lachera. I am looking right now at the NYC stormwater flood maps, which the city just put out with their resiliency plans post Ida. In a moderate stormwater flood, I believe all of these locations are within the bounds of deep and contiguous flooding. That's 1 foot or greater. Not just nuisance flooding, but contiguous flooding. So I don't know how this has fallen through the cracks between DEP and DOT. I mean, obviously, I think it's because they said they did the planning years ago or months ago and met years ago or months ago, and are coming at the very last moment in the design process to speak to us about it. But those are people's basements, people's homes, people's businesses. You know, I had seen the videos coming out of South Williamsburg of folks bringing the Torahs out of the basements during Ida. And like Willis said, you know, this area on Navy Yard is just a massive, massive, massive location for CSO, you know, outfalls. But I mean, I would ask the DOT to just go ahead and look at the city's own maps for these spaces. And I don't understand why there's not any type of stormwater retention in this space. If they're tearing up the concrete, they're tearing up these locations, they can put tanks in the ground to take the stormwater off the street and out of people's homes. They have a duty to do it. You know, and you know, if both them and DEP. So I would highly encourage and ask the board to write as strong a letter as possible and follow up on this, because again, like as William said, it's not a matter of if we're going to have another storm, it's just a matter of time. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
And those are great comments, and I really encourage you to submit them to the community board so that DDC and DEP and DOT can review them at their next coordination meeting.
Okay. And just a reminder, if you've spoken, please take your hand down. Yo, okay. All right. So I'd like to entertain a motion on this proposal. There were some additional comments around the stormwater, etc. If anybody would like to craft that motion. Steve, do you want to say something?
Yes, thanks.
Let me recognize Steve Chesler, board member, chair of the environmental committee. Please go ahead, Steve.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, the Environmental Protection Committee is it hasn't been it's calendared, but it hasn't. A notice hasn't been going out. But we're scheduled to meet on November 22nd. So if there's some sort of resolution or letter they would like the board to send to DOT and DEP, and you wanted the Environmental Protection Committee to also sanction it before the December board meeting, we could potentially do that. So.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Thank you, Steve. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion? Willis?
Sure. I mean, I would, vote. I mean, vote to approve the safety improvement aspects of the project, but demand that DOT and DEP and DDC include green infrastructure. It doesn't have to be complicated. That's it. Include green infrastructure where feasible. Not even that. Include green infrastructure at all projects.
Okay, so I'm going to restate your motion. You can say yes or no. Motion to approve DOT school safety plan. I don't want to say it as presented because we have issues, right? So to approve DOT school safety plan for safety improvements.
Eric.
Wait, hold on. Safety improvements. But I don't know if I could put a button in motion. Go ahead, Ryan, while I'm thinking.
I was going to say, why don't we say that we approve the safety aspects, but disapprove the fact that it lacks any green infrastructure? I don't know if that's without a but.
You might also add, you might want to say, make it like a codicil. You
Okay.
approve the project based on the inclusion of whatever you want to add into that.
Yeah, but I don't want to kill the safety improvements if.
No, I understand that you can say that, but make it, something to make sure that they address it.
Maybe it's two separate motions. We can approve the plan. We can approve the safety improvements as presented, and then maybe do a separate motion to send a letter to DOT and DEP to include climate resiliency. What do you think about that, Willis?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's back to the same thing, saying that we approve the plan as presented.
Yeah, I know.
Gives them an out. Yeah, I just feel like saying we approve the safety components of the plans and demand that the agencies include green infrastructure and stormwater management.
And demand. And demand.
I don't know if demand's the right word, but.
Why not? Jerry likes demand. Strongly demand. Vehemently demand. To approve DOT school safety plan for safety improvements and demand that further further that DOT coordinate with DEP to include
Please add design and construction, 3 agencies.
and thank you, William. DDC, coordinate with DEP, DDC to include what do you want to call it, Willis? Not stormwater resiliency, but
No, stormwater management and green infrastructure.
Stormwater management structure. Okay, so motion to approve DOT school safety plan for safety improvements and demand the DOT coordinate with DEP, DDC to include stormwater management and infrastructure before the start of the project.
Green infrastructure. Sorry.
Green infrastructure. Sorry, green infrastructure. Yeah. Green prior to construction. Is there a second?
I second, William Vega.
Eric, point of information.
Sure.
Can we also? Sorry, I want to make sure that this goes through. But can I make a second motion after, to kind of address the more holistic, like, lack of coordination in general between the different agencies in regards to capital projects like this?
You can, but I just want to. We're on a time crunch, and it's an important point, but I just want to keep it focused on the item at hand, Kevin.
Because I feel like we're going to play whack-a-mole with the next project that is not coordinated.
We are. We always will.
I don't think so.
I mean we can
suggest that improvements are made, but you're the chair.
All right, let's take it up in new business. Okay. All right. I think we need a roll call. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Carried unanimously. All right, Rochelle, Charles, Dee, thank you very much. I think Rhonda's sticking around. And with that, we will move on to item number 2, which is an update. Sorry, bear with me. Okay, which is an update on Berry Street treatments, specific Berry Street treatments. Kyle, you're recognized.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric.
And we're getting short on time, so if you can do it under 20.
Oh, I will do it under 10.
I love it.
I will be very quick.
Okay.
So, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me back. It's been a while, but good to see everyone. I'm going to go through a very quick presentation about some items that I spoke to you about in September when I was last here. This is just an update sort of from that and what some next steps are going to be. So this is a similar slide like we showed last time, just breaking out what the timeline is going to be. So in the fall, there is the continued ongoing implementation of our Meeker Avenue project, which is well underway. There's, of course, been a lot of public outreach related to McInnes Boulevard and sort of charting out a larger, safer vision for that corridor. We will be deploying 2 bike corrals along Driggs Avenue, the first at the Meeker Morgan Triangle, and then also at Monitor Street across from the school. And then we also, weather dependent, this fall into the winter, are planning to implement a light touch design on some strategic parts of the Berry Street corridor. And that's primarily what I'm going to be presenting tonight. And then continuing on into the winter and the rest of into 2022, continuing to think big about how we can really reimagine these streets as public space and make them a lot safer for all road users. But of course, that comes along with further engagement as we've been doing over the last year. And then hopefully next year, we'll be able to implement some projects at various parts of North Brooklyn, but specific to the open streets corridors that have been participating in the program since 2020. And then, moving into the end of 2022 and beyond, we definitely want to continue working with you and the wider North Brooklyn community on public realm planning in North Brooklyn, and then maybe start to talk about capital projects, which, sort of just following the conversation that we just have is a great time to start to really think big about green infrastructure and making sure that we are promoting the most sustainable type of project implementation. So we definitely are all ears, I think, as those conversations start, when we really start to reimagine how these streets can be sort of capitally built out to sort of further traffic safety, infrastructure, green infrastructure, so on and so forth. So like I said, the meat and potatoes of tonight per se is the light touch treatments that we are planning to implement on Berry Street. Of course, Berry Street is quite a long open streets corridor, but we have chosen 5 intersections where we're going to be implementing these light touch treatments. And those 5 intersections are Broadway to South 6th, Grand to North 1st, Metropolitan to North 3rd, North 6th to North 7th, and North 11th to North 12th. And as a part of these light touch treatments, there's sort of 2 main points that we're really trying to develop as a part of this new novel type of implementation that we're proposing. The first is at the gateway. So basically this large curb extension that you see in the foreground of the photo that's on the right of the screen is a curb extension. So this is going to be a bump out of the pedestrian space. So the space where the pedestrian is right here will be bumped out using paint, planters, and flexible delineators to narrow the crossing distance and also slow turns as people are turning off of Metropolitan onto Berry Street. We'll also be still maintaining the barriers, but right now we have been using 2 barriers at each intersection, and the plan is to try to move forward with only 1 metal barrier that has the traffic signage on it. And then at the mid-block, which is where my cursor is shown right now, we're implementing what we're calling a choker, which narrows the moving lane at the center of the block, which is a pretty natural design treatment that slows traffic. And there'll be the strategic signage that we would put as a part of this implementation that continues to convey that this is a bike and pedestrian corridor. People should be driving 5 miles per hour. And this very light touch mid-block choker acts as, like I said, narrowing of the moving lane, which slows traffic and has a very gentle sort of S curve to it, which is sometimes referred to as a chicane in urban design. And you'll notice the same sort of very light touch chicane element is also included as a part of the bike lane. So this is the mid-block choker. And then the third part of the implementation with this light touch treatment will be another curb extension at the end of the block with specific signage that conveys that they might be leaving an open street block, but that they should still sort of prioritize bike and pedestrian movements and adhere to a 5 mile per hour speed limit. So like I said, the gateway, the mid-block, and the exit are where we're trying to target some of these treatments along the corridor. The goal really is to act quickly. We have heard a lot of feedback about the open street related to its operations, related to how it's used, and how sometimes vehicles don't respect its status. So we wanted to think of a, like I said, light touch treatment that we could implement in a quick way while we continue to work with you and the wider community about how we can really fully redesign all of these blocks along the corridor to really, as I mentioned at the beginning, promoting the use of streets as public space, improving traffic safety and circulation, and ideally also including some green infrastructure further down the line. And the other part is to also really just codify this as a bike and pedestrian priority street. That is the essence of open streets at its core, and we're really excited to be implementing this light touch treatment on Berry, which will be the first of 2 corridors in the city where we'll be testing out this new treatment. We'll continue to regularly monitor and collect feedback about how this is working through traffic counts, making observational analysis with us and our community partners, as well as doing some surveying, so talking to you all here at the community board in the future, as well as doing a public feedback survey where folks can share more information about how they feel these light touch treatments are working. So moving on past that, like I said, we of course want to continue the conversation about more robustly redesigning these corridors, factoring in the DOT public space toolkit. So we're specifically eyeing, as we have been for quite a number of months now, the Berry and Bedford corridors, Driggs Avenue, but specifically the streets that are adjacent to McGolrick Park, as well as Sharon Street at Cooper Park. The diagram that is shown on the screen is a sort of just illustration of the public space toolkit and the sort of different types of typologies and layers that we can factor in when we actually really sort of start to more progressively think about how we can redesign streets as public space and include lots of really great transportation assets and among other things. So this is the sort of philosophy that we really want to keep in mind as we continue to redesign some of these corridors across North Brooklyn. So the final slide is just about the schedule. We are hoping that we can go forward with this light touch design implementation this month. That, of course, is very weather dependent as well as our capacity dependent. We have a lot of projects in the queue right now and very limited capacity, but we're hoping that this will happen. If it were not to happen in November and if it gets too cold in December, we would immediately look to implement sometime in the early spring once the weather is a little bit more temperate. In the coming months, we'll also be hosting another design workshop. We'll be presenting some more robust designs for these corridors, hopefully with some lessons learned from these light touch treatments, but also factoring in the public space toolkit that I just shown. And then we'll come back to Community Board 1 in the spring to present those ideas to you with the goal of ideally implementing some further designs in summer 2022. So I hope I kept it under 10 minutes. I tried not to ramble too much, but that is the entire presentation. And Eric, I will hand it back to you.
Thanks, Kyle. At a previous meeting, we talked about expanding the partnership aspect to maybe bring in some other agencies and stuff like that to maintain the barriers, take some of the pressure off the community coalition. Is there any news on that, or are we still waiting to figure that out?
Yes, I'm happy to share that we have successfully pretty much taken over the management, at least with the barriers, through the Cleanup Corps. For anyone who's unfamiliar with the Cleanup Corps, it is a mayoral initiative to give about 10,000 jobs all across New York City with lots of different agencies, but we're fortunate enough to have 100 of those jobs to help with open streets operations. And we have quite a number of folks now on the open streets corridor on Berry that are managing the barriers, putting them up at the beginning of the day, taking them down at night, as well as providing some regular sanitation supports and making sure that our streets are clean of any trash or debris. Now that it's fall, we're also targeting all of the storm drains to make sure that there are no leaves in them, which we know is a huge issue in our rainstorms. So we're making sure that as much as possible, we're keeping our storm drains clean. And there's also, as a part of this light touch treatment that we're proposing, horticultural elements that this cleanup crew will be managing as well. So we'll be adding some greenery to the corridor.
Committee, any questions? Steve, I see your hand up. I don't know if that's from before, but if not, can you take, thank you, sir.
My hands are up.
I see you. I see you. I'm just looking around. All right, William, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to give a shout out to our Department of Transportation, to Kyle, Melissa, and Rhonda. And I know Paul, I speak on his behalf, as Friends of Cooper's Park and Sharon's Open Street. They have been great partners. And also, when, with other agencies work, that street is also where we have our rain gardens. So DP also helped, it's been working together. So when the agencies work together, I think the community works together better. And I just want to just shout out our appreciation. Great job, guys. It's wonderful to have your community partners such as Kyle, Rhonda, and Melissa. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle, what's the name of that corps? The what corps?
The Cleanup Corps. So the Cleanup Corps is the wider mayoral initiative. We are specifically working with the Horticultural Society of New York to hire and sort of operate open streets with these folks.
Thank you. Any other committee?
I had my hand up, Eric.
Go ahead, Ron. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you. I live right here on Barry Metropolitan, and it's one of the areas you've hit. And because of the topography of the street, it has always, before open streets, been a very dangerous intersection, high speed cars coming through. We had numerous, and we haven't had an accident, in forever. And so it's really great. It's great to see it being expanded, because some of these blocks you hit are really, like, I see that you looked and studied. So I wanted to say thank you, and I'm looking forward to it, to more safety.
Okay. All right. I see Katie's hand up. Katie, I recognize you as a board member. Katie Denny Horowitz.
Thanks, Eric. Hey, Kyle, I had a question about just kind of who the best contacts are, because there's so many different players with like the City Corps and the Horde and you and the Community Coalition. So if someone has a question about the program, or if someone sees that for whatever reason the program isn't functioning in some way, what is the best way to reach out among all those different players? Do you have like a best means of or line of communication?
Could you elaborate more as to which program? Do you mean the Open Streets program?
Oh, sorry. Yes. You did present multiple programs. So I was specifically talking about the Berry Street, when you were talking about the management and the partnership between the Cleanup Corps and the Horde. Of course, the Open Streets Coalition, has been responsible in the past for managing it. And so for users of the street, who might they contact if there's an issue?
If there's an issue, they can feel free to just reach out to us via the online form or the Brooklyn Borough Commissioner's office, or they can email openstreets@dot.nyc.gov, and we'd be happy to talk with them more.
Okay, cool. Thank you
Are
very
there
much.
any specific issues you wanted to flag?
I just know that with the various groups, I'm familiar with in working with you all how it works and who's sort of doing what. But I think for folks kind of learning about all the different levels and all the different players involved, that I just want to make sure that people feel that they have the appropriate forum to contact, whether it's like 311 or is it the Horticultural Society, or is it the mayor's office, or is it the Brooklyn Borough President's office, as you said? So, or is it DOT? So there are just so many different people involved. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear on who to contact with questions.
Got
But
it.
thank you.
Committee or board, anybody? Okay, I see, oh, it went down. William, can you take your hand down, please? Okay, I see 2 public hands raised. We will recognize Kinga Z and then Maria N. And Kinga, if I can have your last name for the record, please.
Hi, it's Zablocki.
Spell that, please.
Zablocki.
Okay, thank you. Please, your comment or question.
So I feel like these closed streets aren't really taking into consideration a lot of the actual residents that live in Berry Street. My family's been on Berry Street between North 9th and 10th at 75 Berry Street since 1984. And a few examples is we took our next door, our neighbor lives, she had foot surgery and we picked her up from the hospital. We couldn't drop her off at her home because there's a truck blocking. And the trucks that keep blocking the cross streets, whether it's 9th, 8th, or 7th, is a consistent problem and they need to go somewhere. We're not going to stop getting deliveries. The restaurants aren't going to stop getting deliveries. Another issue we had, my family had a funeral in October, and we were having family and friends come to our backyard on Berry Street that we've grown up and lived here, and we had received harassment. I had to say we live here to people, to these pedestrians that do not live in the neighborhood. A lot of people that live in the neighborhood aren't actually using these streets. A lot of people from other places are coming to this street to walk on. And we received harassment and we just came back from a funeral going to our backyard to mourn. And we have a parking spot on Berry as well that we've had for many years. And we're almost being denied access to our home. And we're not the only tenants, the residents that live in the area and have lived in the area for decades, they're having these problems. Or even getting, because these trucks block anywhere from 25 minutes to 45 minutes, and I have this on camera, you know, if heaven forbid, a few years back, my dad had a heart attack and you can't get an ambulance in time, and that's already being, those resources are kind of having a hard time with the requirements. So there's firehouses and stuff that are being closed off. And that leads to really great concern. My mom's having surgery this coming up week. I don't know if there's going to be a truck blocking our street and I can drop her off to her home. And it's simple things like dropping off groceries. My sisters come with the kids. And I know a lot of people say, oh, it's the cars that are the dangerous part. What I see is motorized bikes going both directions where I cannot take out my nieces or nephew on the street. It's less safe than it used to be. And I don't know who this is for, the closed streets, but from my neighbors who I have known for decades and my parents, and that my neighbors from 7th to 10th Street on Berry Street that I've many that I've known for a very long time, they're not seeing a benefit of this. They're seeing more problems than anything else, more garbage.
Ms. Zablocki, I have to cut you off for time. I'm sorry. Okay. I have your comments for the record. And you know, feel free to draft your concerns up in an email and send it to the board office, and I can include it in the report. Okay.
What's the best way to send that?
If you go to the CB1 website, it's what is it? BKO1. I should know this by heart by now. Mm-hmm. Sorry, bear with me.
No worries, thank you.
BKO1 at cb.nyc.gov. I don't know why.
cbnyc.gov?
cb.nyc.gov.
Okay, and that's BK0 or O?
0.
It's a 0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one question. When you said trucks are blocking what? I didn't.
North 7th Street, North 9th Street.
They're blocking in an intersection, or they're blocking
So if you're going on Berry, you cannot go past a lot of times North 9th or North 7th. There's usually maybe a UPS truck. Sometimes it's a delivery to some of the restaurants. But giant trucks, and it hasn't been, it's been several times where we didn't have access to Berry Street because there's nowhere for them to park or to even like North 9th, North 7th, North 8th are kind of narrow streets. So if you have a giant truck and you don't have like let's say a pump or someplace that you can stop, they have to kind of block the intersection because they would block the whole North 9th. No one could get through.
Thank you. I just didn't know were they blocking the street to
a lot.
You know, no, I mean I thought they were parked there blocking the street to prevent access. That's what I was asking about.
But they
If
are
somebody was
preventing
parking them there, but it's deliveries. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Marie. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. I had a Maria, or was it
Maria.
Maria N?
Yeah.
Okay, Maria, what's your last name, please?
Natale, Natale.
Okay, please go ahead. And I'm sorry, I'm going to put the timer on just because we have to end at 9 and we have a lot of other business to get to. So please go ahead. You have 1 minute.
The last speaker spoke on the same things that I wanted to re-emphasize, and that we've been reaching out for the past 19 months about this and have gotten no help in managing. The barricades are not managed. They're supposed to be put out at certain times, taken away at certain times, and they're not. And that's been completely disregarded, the times that they are supposed to, and for weather conditions. And it's created a really unsafe street because there's two-way traffic. And now there's, like she mentioned, motorized scooters, there's trucks blocking, going both ways. And there's been multiple 311 calls about safety on Berry Street due to the unsafe conditions. I also wanted to ask about the curb extension. That is it on North 3rd in front of the beer garden that has a block party like every weekend? That has it's like a street fair, and that will just encourage it even more, which it's already, I think, way out of control. Is that where that curb extension is, on North 3rd?
I need to refer back to the plan just to
Go
confirm
ahead.
exactly where the location of the curb extension will be at that particular intersection. But related to a block party or whatever you're describing, if there are unsanctioned events that are not permitted, you should definitely escalate those issues with the NYPD.
No, it's the restaurant has outdoor, because that's now an allowed thing, and the corner is North 3rd and Berry, and you can pull up your diagram. It was on there. I thought you just showed us. And there's patrons. It's not like a planned announced block party. It's that they have the whole sidewalk, and now you're giving them an extra curb extension. Like, I think I don't see that these are being observed, actually, the street, when these plans are being made. That specific corner, like, that is probably the worst corner, I would think, to encourage gathering of people. That's where they already gather outside, have bands, and it's like a college frat party, honestly. And it's on that corner.
Thank you, Ms. Natale. Thank you. So Kyle, just to wrap this up, is there a curb extension going in that corner? And if you don't have that now, can you get it to me for the report?
Yeah, I'll be happy to send it to you tomorrow. We need to also finalize all of the locations along the corridor. The design is not sort of buttoned up just yet, but I will definitely be in touch tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other hands raised, and we are quickly running out of time, regrettably. Okay, so thank you, Kyle, for the presentation. I'll be looking for that information for the report. from both the public speakers and from your office as to where the curb extensions are going, whether North Third is affected. That is, I often have to use that for my work to get to Whole Foods, and that is a tricky corner in that business. I've seen it get a little crazy over there, to be fair to Ms. Natali's comments. So it would be interesting to know what the plan is for that corner. Okay.
Eric, there are two other hands up from public if you want. I don't know if you want to shut it down or take the other hands, but they've been up for a while.
I don't see them.
I see Alex Schaefer and also Kevin's hand is up. LaShara.
Alex Schaefer. You, Alex Schaefer. Okay, I will entertain two more public comments. Mr. Schaefer, I don't see you in my window, but you are recognized if you can hear me.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Eric.
I see you now. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation, Kyle. I'm a supporter of a big supporter of the Berry Street open street, and I use it frequently. One of the things that you mentioned in your presentation is at least at certain intersections going down to one barrier, and it's been my experience that that two well-placed barriers is most effective for stopping the through traffic, while also allowing the local for people to access that one block. So I guess my question was just, what was the thinking in terms of the plan to go down to a one barrier? Because that would seem to me to be less effective, but I want to know the thinking.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we're hoping with the curb extensions, that will hopefully, in some ways negate the need for two barriers. I think that this is definitely going to be an interesting test to see if that's the case. If we find that people are still sort of creeping around, like you're sort of alluding to, we can just go back to adding the two barriers. But all of the blocks where we are not doing these design interventions, there still will be the two barriers.
And if I'm allowed to
I got to move on. Sorry,
okay,
Alex.
sorry, it's fine.
And I'm sorry, Bronwyn, who was the other person?
Well, Kevin LaChara has his hand up and Paul Kelterburn also does.
Okay, Paul, go first, your committee.
Yeah, hi. I guess I just wanted to make a comment on Kinga's earlier point about how trucks park blocking the street. And thanks, Kyle, for the presentation. I'm excited to see these new developments. But it is true, they've kind of become these de facto loading zones, and it seems like maybe it would be wise to add some designated loading zones at the curb at some of these corners to prevent that behavior, if possible.
Yeah, I think definitely as a part of the future design developments that we're hoping for spring and summer 2022, loading zones and loading zones not only for trucks, but just to sort of continue the green conversation tonight, we have a very robust cargo bike sort of pilot that is scaling up all around New York City. So we're really looking forward to trying to factor in different types of loading and deliveries with companies that are participating in those programs.
Great. Good point, Paul. Thank you.
Thanks.
And Kevin.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, a couple things I wanted to echo what Paul was going to say. I wrote down loading zones as well. I think that the concern about the trucks at the intersections, is makes sense, and I think is something that could absolutely be solved with neighborhood loading zones. And I also want to point out, I know that we folks come and they bring up the outdoor dining quite a bit, and I do think that it's important to note, just on the record, that Outdoor dining has kept thousands of businesses alive for the past 19 months and has kept hundreds of thousands, probably 100, the estimate is 100,000 jobs in the city in place. So, you know, certainly there are remedies available, you know, speaking to business owners or, you know, putting in a complaint or whatever it may be. You know, I don't think that the idea of making an intersection marginally safer with a curb bulb out would particularly change anyone's any business's behavior as far as that goes. And I just also think that, you know, I know that this has come out, you know, that we've been talking about it and DOT, you know, studies have been put out about it, that the idea that these corridors are less safe. I know, you know, when they presented, DOT presented on 34th Avenue, and that's just, it's just factually untrue that these spaces are less safe. There have been less crashes, less injuries, less deaths along open street corridors because through traffic has been reduced along those corridors. So what Ryan was talking about earlier with folks speeding has stopped by and large.
Thank you, Kevin.
So thank you, Kyle, and to the DOT for this plan for Barry. We want more and we're looking forward to it.
Thanks. Okay, with that, I will close this item. Kyle would be looking to see you again in the spring, I guess, right?
Yeah, potentially maybe sometime in the winter to either
like
come
February.
Potentially, we'll be in touch.
All right, we'll play it
yeah.
by ear. Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, item number 3. Let's see, we are now at 8 o'clock. We have 1 hour left. We're given 30 minutes for this item, but we can't take 30 minutes on this item. So Kevin, I'm going to ask you to make your presentation. And because this is technically a prelude to a Plaza submission for the spring, we'll take limited comment at this meeting. This is really just to see what the community has come up with and the work they've done for this proposal, and we'll take further comment on it as it moves through the process. Okay, so Kevin, you're recognized.
Prelude to a Plaza should be like a book of short stories. I should. Yeah.
And everybody, I'm sorry, if you're not muted, please mute. 718-8 blah 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 80 number. Miss Natalie, I think you're unmuted. So if everybody could just mute so that Kevin is the only speaker. Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you, Eric, and thanks to the committee for taking the time for this today. It looks like DOT is still on the line. Yes, I see Rhonda here. Hey, Rhonda. Yeah, so basically, this is a presentation for a space that we're calling the Bedford Slip, which is a public plaza. Hold on, there we go. Basically at this kind of key part of Greenpoint in Williamsburg. And so just to give you kind of a quick bird's eye, we can go back to this if anybody wants to, of course. I think it might be necessary if anybody has questions. Just to kind of center ourselves for a moment, the space that we're talking about is the space where Bedford cuts through between Lorimer, Nassau, and Manhattan Avenue. Can you see my cursor? Eric? Or anybody?
Yes.
You can see it.
Great, thank you. Okay, so is this space right here, which there was some redesigns of the space done back in 2018. So this map is a little bit of a melding of both the additions from 2018 and some of the more recent additions, like these open restaurant locations that are here. So what's the space that we're talking about? Obviously, here it is. It's called the Bedford Slip. That's just another version of the same map. It is 12,992 square feet. That's what's bounded out by the blue lines here. That is 0.2 acres. Just to give folks a sense of that, that's about the size of Manhattan Avenue Street End Park. And it's one of the highest pedestrian volume locations in all of North Brooklyn. That is according to the North Williamsburg Transportation Study. I imagine it's totally anecdotal that it's probably even more high pedestrian now than it was back in 2018 because so many of the changes that have come with the pandemic to the area. And what we're basically proposing here is a closed street, a public plaza in the space as a safer pathway from Manhattan Avenue to McCarran Park for pedestrians. It's a very, very, very high volume pedestrian area between the park, the subway, the bus, Manhattan Avenue, the businesses, the delivery. There's so much happening here. And the vast majority of it is happening on bikes or on foot. We've been in conversation with all the businesses in the immediate vicinity of the slip. So basically that is this space, this space, this space, and across the street about that. And we've heard a lot of support basically from those businesses about the dangerous conditions that they've observed. And they're not the only ones. Those observations have come from almost everyone we have spoken to, that this is a really dangerous, really problematic area. And so, like I said, we're going to be applying for the NYC DOT Plaza program in April of 2022. That is the earliest we're able to apply, April 1st of 2022. We'll be sending that along. This is the current coalition of organizations that is working on this. The North Brooklyn Parks Alliance, North Brooklyn Transportation Alternatives Activist Committee, North Brooklyn Neighbors, North Brooklyn Stewards, and North Brooklyn Mutual Aid, and the Open Streets Community Coalition are all a part of the planning conversation suggestions for this, in addition to a lot of other outreach, which I'll get to in just a little bit. But first, we'll take a step back in time. Why is this the way that it is and where it is? I'm going to move this over. It's down here. There we go. This is at the intersection of the two tectonic plates, the Greenpoint grid and the Williamsburg grid. Very similar kind of to Banker's Anchor, which we had talked about back a couple of months ago. It is one of these strange triangular spaces where basically the street grid collided with another street grid. Why? Because you had a lot of the land around McCarran Park that was vacant. It was bad land, part of the connection to the Bushwick Inlet. And so everything was kind of built around it. And so we're left with these strange triangular spaces. But anyway, yes, so that was how the Bedford slip space was born. It was a place where there were horse carts going down that way. It was a place where there were trolley tracks, a complex system of interchanges, similar to the tangle of traffic. There was once a tangle of trolleys through this area as well. Some little vintage photos of the space. And then it was a gas station. You can see the building that we're looking at right now. Basically, you can see Manhattan Avenue running down the back there. And this is the building where Frankel's and Good Bar is today, and built out much closer to the corner. But it was a gas station. A lot of these triangular sites were gas stations. And kind of true to form, the last public transit was rolled out in the 1950s, replaced with buses. But the last trolley to come down the Bedford slip was late, which was pretty typical for the time. And then the city paved over the tracks shortly thereafter. They might still be down there somewhere. We imagine that the cobbles are, so the tracks might be as well. Recent updates, in 2018, the DOT proposed and built bulb outs and crosswalks at this space, here and here. They removed this. This was bidirectional. This was two-way. This was two-way. They changed that. They changed the slip's lane of travel from two-way to one-way. At the time, you might say, well, why didn't they create this space back in 2018? One of the reasons why we believe is the bus used to come down this way before the L train shut down. Now the bus stops here on Nassau, and there used to be a driving school right here where Woke Vintage is today. And so Sharkey's Driving School has since closed, and these spaces here were converted to metered parking and loading zones, and now largely open restaurants. In 2020, just about a year ago, November 8th of last year, there was a really horrible crash in this location in the bulb out, where a young mother was hit and pinned to one of the concrete blocks, and her leg was amputated. Really terrible. And there was at the time a petition put out with over 1,500, I don't know where it actually landed, but I know it was over 1,500 signatures to do something about this space. I know we talked about it here, that asking DOT to do something because, the safety measures that they had taken were not sufficient for the volume of traffic, the confusion, and the pedestrian volume and danger from moving vehicles traveling through this space. But nothing was done, unfortunately. And that's one of the reasons why this proposal is coming forward this evening and going forward into the future. And that brings us to the present day and some of the uses of the space. We have outdoor dining for 5 Leaves, Pasta Forma, Good Bar. Obviously an extended safe crosswalk space. Those crossings are much shorter. You're not getting from 5 Leaves all the way over to Starbucks in that long, long crosswalk. You know, these bulb outs that we spoke about earlier in South Williamsburg, this is a much larger one, I imagine, than what DOT is planning down there, but it have been built. So it's a significantly safer space. It's an impromptu community market in a lot of ways. This is a majority BIPOC kind of collective of vendors who's out there every weekend, you know, really activating the space in a wonderful way. Further down on the slip itself, there's it's a resting space, and for a lot of the deliveristas that deliver our food throughout the neighborhood and have been doing that throughout the pandemic, you know, we're at a real premium for public seating in a lot of these areas, and so they take it where they can get it. There's mixed parking and loading zones on the slip itself, which is totaling about roughly 6 metered spaces, you know, and then a left turn only light onto Manhattan Avenue. And I think it's important as we think about this space, and, you know, just really the activation is just largely this space here. All of that is happening within this very, very small bulb out that DOT has added on this side of the slip. And I think it's important to put that in the context of the larger open space needs that we have across all of North Brooklyn, which I know we talked about it here before, but it's important to bring up again, which is that we average 0.6 acres of parkland for 1,000 residents in North Brooklyn. And the average citywide is 1.8 acres of parkland. And that is obviously the green infrastructure benefits of parkland, you know, the quality of life benefits of parkland, you know, what our community ought to have, what we're entitled to. You know, the long environmental and industrial history of this neighborhood, you know, is written in the roadbed. It's, you know, it's written in the way that we design and the decisions that we make about our community. And we can decide to ask for more open space so that there's parity, you know, with other communities. We are, I believe it's 48th out of 59 districts, 48th in terms of parkland and open space. So just keep that in mind. Even though this is 0.2 acres of space, think about all the things that are happening within this bulb out itself right now, and what could happen, you know, if we made that space larger and took some of that space from what is essentially a left-hand turn, and a dangerous one at that. So that's important. The dangerous points. This is crash mapper data. Sorry, I'm like moving around my little screen here, but this is crash mapper data from the space itself, basically just the space itself. This is not counting other areas along Lorimer and Nassau and Manhattan and Bedford, you know, where the tangle of traffic creates dangerous conditions. This is just on the slip itself, which there have been 8 crashes reported. There's quite a lot of crashes that, you know, we see in their community all the time that are not reported, where you know, there's no incident report filed or whatever it may be, but 8 crashes reported on the slip since January 2018, 17 crashes in the years prior. You know, and I believe I don't have it on here. I apologize. Oh no, we do. I'm sorry. 8 crashes and 9 total injuries. You know, and obviously the very, very extreme one from last year where a young mother's leg had to be amputated. And like I said, walking and cycling is projected to increase this intersection. That's according to the DOT. Those numbers of folks coming into the community is only going to increase. McCarran Park is the largest open space that we have in the community, 36 acres. You know, that's, for most people, that's their backyard. And this is a space they have to travel through to get to it. So this is the existing space. Sorry. This is the existing space. I mean, this was taken very early in the morning, so you know, it's not a great picture of the usual, you know, maybe cars or something along the way, but you'll see why in a moment, why we had to take it this way, because we wanted it as clear as possible to make the graphic design as easy as possible. But this is the existing conditions along the Bedford slip, the existing space. Some of it, as you know, it's difficult to photograph. That is the existing, and then here is a rendering of what it could be. That's our proposed that is a proposed redesign for this space. And I think it's important to note with this stuff, this is not totally prescriptive. Every single thing here is not exactly what, you know, that bike corral or that umbrella design or that planter goes where, but this is just to show folks what could be in a space like this. I think it's also important that right now you realize that most of the people are crowded on these tiny sidewalks here and here all together, as well as the slip, which is up ahead here. We ran through some software to look at what the general pedestrian capacity of this space would be, and this is with COVID distancing. The pedestrian capacity roughly of the space is about 300. That's a conservative estimate distanced of about 300 people, which is quite sizable, you know, and really could be a really wonderful and positive open space for all those folks as they're heading to McCarran Park or to Manhattan Avenue, waiting for the train, patronizing a local business, meeting up with friends, whatever it may be. So this is the proposed redesign from the air in terms of the space that we're talking about. What you can kind of see outlined here in tan matches up with the sidewalks and the roadbed. And we know this is a concern. Back in 2018, we know this was a question, you know, and we had basically the turning geometry, which is if you made it so that you could no longer go through Bedford to make the left onto Manhattan Avenue, and you had the left off of Nassau onto Manhattan, whatever it may be, could large vehicles make that turn? It's an important question. So this is the auto turn vehicle tracking software. Shows that both a 33-foot dump truck and a 54-foot articulated fire truck, which is probably the, you know, especially in terms of emergency vehicles, the largest vehicle that's going to be traveling through here, can make the left turn at Nassau and Manhattan. So there's no need to keep that slip open in order to make those left turns onto Manhattan. So right now the bus does not. Well, the bus technically could make, the bus makes that left right now. This is a no left turn right now except for buses. So the bus can make the turn, dump truck can make the turn, this 54-foot articulated fire truck can make the turn. So that is that, and we're happy to provide that data to the DOT with our application. Some existing plazas, this has been done elsewhere all over the city, in our own community and all over New York City. You know, there's Putnam Triangle and Clinton Hill, Union Avenue and McCarran Park, which was the amazing green market. I don't think anybody in their right mind would ever want to turn that back into a road now that it's that lovely, lovely space in McCarran Park and that vital.
I need you to wrap it up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Banker's Anchor, these other plazas. And just to say also, we are in the process of, we reached out, touch base in some capacity with all 17 businesses in this space. We have contact information for owners and managers. We're actively involved in conversation with all of them. Generally, it's been pretty positive. You know, they see the conditions along this street. Projected timeline, planning, outreach. We are currently at over 500 petition signatures. And we're going to continue to be doing outreach on the slip every weekend, visioning through fall and winter, and then submission in April of 2022. These are some additional improvements that we'd like to see in the space. You know, as DOT is looking at the larger traffic conditions around this area, you know, street safety around the perimeter of McCarran Park. But curb protecting the triangle opposite the Bedford slip, which is currently just similarly to the bulb out, basically paint and flex posts. Shortening the crossings in these spaces, putting planters, daylight in the corners, adding bike parking. This is a render of the triangle. This is the opposite. This is the triangle opposite the slip currently. Sometimes you'll have cars literally come right into this space and, you know, do whatever, park or idle or wait. You know, trucks will back into this space. And this is a render of what that space could be. Again, making it curb protected, adding planters, trees, tree beds, bike parking, public seating. It could be a really tremendous improvement. So that's basically it. Hopefully we'll see you at the slip sometime soon.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Committee questions? And Kevin, just before, I was going to ask you about the turn radius on, or the turn geometry at Manhattan, and I'm glad to see that you tried to use a little science to incorporate that into the plan in advance. That was a major concern of mine, and it was good to see even Billy's Locksmith is in conversation with you on this, and this is really going to come down to when DOT gets its hands on it, that kind of turn geometry and buy-in from the businesses. And I appreciate you doing that work on that. So I'll just, with that said, I don't see any committee members with hand. I see Ryan with her hand raised, so I'll recognize Ryan, and then Steve as a board member. Wait, I saw another one. Did I not? Yes, and Bronwyn. Okay, so Ryan, Bronwyn, and then Steve.
I was wondering what's the timeline and how people, that if they're supportive, how they can get involved.
Sure. So currently, the earliest we can submit this proposal to DOT is April 1st, 2022. Their Plaza application process is open until June, but our intention is to have, basically we're pretty close to having many of the ducks that have to be in a row. As you can see, there, and I really should have acknowledged this from the jump, there are many people who had their hands on this and throughout this process. Designers and social media folks and petitioning and business outreach. There's a whole team of people that worked on this. And so I think that's a really tremendously important thing to have gotten it to this point right now. But April 1st, we're planning on submitting. We have a petition on the Instagram for it, which is @BedfordSlip, spelled the way it sounds. And folks can sign that petition. Generally, we're out there on the weekends when there's the weekend market. Whatever day is nice, or Saturday or Sunday is the day that we're out there. So, and we put that up as well. So, yeah, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Bronwyn, and then Steve.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Kevin. This is cool. I love this idea. I think that intersection is definitely improved since they made the most recent changes there, but still I find it really dangerous, both as a pedestrian and as a bicyclist. I was glad to see at the end you add the concrete extensions at some of those intersections. I know this is a Plaza application and that's not maybe in the purview of this application, or maybe it is, I don't know, but I think that's a really essential piece to incorporate, because those are some really long crossings, particularly like at the south side there by the triangle. And the crossing times are short and it's confusing. So I also find the visibility, because of the way that Plazas is awesome. And I love being out there and having these pop-ups and ceramics and vintage clothes and all the good stuff. But I find the visibility to be really dangerous too when everybody's packed into that little area. So I think having curb extensions that indicate differentiation between Plaza area and pedestrian area, crossing area, is really good. I also would add to your DOT list of wish list is some clarification of the bike lane there, because I find that way you cross when you're coming up Berry, and then there's that little waiting space in front of traffic, and then you're supposed to cross across, to be really awkward and confusing. And I actually had a crash on my bike there. So not that it's about me, but I think it's dangerous. And then lastly, I think you should throw in some green infrastructure. Again, I don't know if that's part of Plaza applications or not, but it's a lot of concrete and would be awesome to get some green space. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bronwyn. I think that the all those points are well taken. That southern crossing that you're talking about, and one of the reasons why we expanded this, though it's obviously a little bit, perhaps, I hope not, but perhaps a little bit beyond the purview of a regular Plaza application, is precisely because when we were presenting this to Councilmember Levin, that was something that his office brought up, was the importance of both daylighting these intersections to making them safer, and just keeping the lines of sight open with just the sheer number of people that are in this area, and with kind of the how short those crossings are. And so I think that's really important. And I would want to see also, similar to what we said about the coordination between DOT and DEP, I want to see green infrastructure in all these plazas, because this is an area, again, around McCarran Park, all once part of the Bushwick Inlet, and its streams and tributaries. And so it floods, and whatever we can do to take that water out of our businesses and our homes, the better. So, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Steve?
Thanks, Eric, and thanks, Kevin. I echo what Bronwyn said just about potential improvements in terms of safety and clarity in terms of, traversing these, the crossings, et cetera. But, just, I guess, one concern, I mean, I feel like we've already put it out there in terms of contacting the businesses will be affected, but especially Billy's Locksmith, which is an essential business in the neighborhood, how they would be able to, fluidly still operate, because they obviously have, I think they don't have big trucks, but they have, vehicles. And specifically, like how there's more than half a dozen, food establishments in that area. Avoid some of the issues that were mentioned on Berry Street with truck deliveries, blocking, being able to make their deliveries and then not, block access and visibility, et cetera. But overall, no, I really love the idea, and including the triangle opposite, just to create more definition of that space. So it's, again, creating clarity for drivers and pedestrians and bikers.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve, I think I would say exactly what, and this is what we've been talking with the businesses about, which is, the importance of the loading zones on Manhattan Avenue. I mean, I think that right now, something that is the case in the slip is that the space, because of the outdoor dining, has been so greatly reduced, and because it is metered parking, that oftentimes those spaces are not acting as loading zones anyway, or they're acting as loading zones under the prescribed hours of being loading zones. So I think that is just a matter of looking at, again, what are other areas that we can make into neighborhood and commercial loading zones? The difference for Billy's Locksmith of folks bringing in, delivering something with a hand truck, of going from the corner of Dunkin' Donuts versus being right out in front, ultimately for the larger benefit for the community here, it's doable. And for a lot of these businesses, it's doable, especially when the stakes are, potentially somebody getting, very hurt or killed in this very dangerous kind of tangle of spaces. And so commercial loading zones, neighborhood loading zones on Manhattan Avenue and on the, adjacent areas, I think is a great tool in the toolkit as we work this out. So, yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. William, then Kevin, and then I see Maria, you have your hand raised. I think that's a new hand. So we will do that, and then we really do need to move on. We have 32 minutes left in this meeting. So William, if you can be quick.
We'll be quick. I just want to say that earlier today, I went down Manhattan Avenue, get my Johnson & Johnson booster shot. And then when I returned, I was at that triangle, and everybody was having so much fun. But 3 people were mentioning it is the blind spot. We don't see, so I just agree with what everybody else says. That's a wonderful location to enhance it and to make it safe. Again, I'm all for being proactive. So great job, Kevin. Great job.
Thanks, William. A lot of folks deserve credit. Long line of names. So thank you.
Thank you, William. Kevin.
Thanks for the great presentation, Kevin. I wanted to, echo what a couple of comments that the previous speakers have mentioned. Particularly great job, especially doing the community outreach, getting, the buy-in of the businesses around there, and really great job, especially with the modeling of the different vehicles that are able to make turns in the area. I think that that's really great research, even ahead of, submitting the formal application. So I think that's pretty great. I would kind of underscore the importance of Bioswalls, as Bronwyn had mentioned. I think it would be really great to bring some, green to, this I guess this, as you pointed out, Kevin, underutilized space, and also, the fact that we don't have a lot of parkland per 1,000 residents. I know that streets are often very gray and impermeable, and now more than ever, we've already mentioned it a couple of times on this call, but it's important to get that drainage in. So thank you for all your great work so far, and I'm really excited for this.
Can I just say one quick thing? In terms of drainage in the area, people have to understand that the subway does run through there, both the L train and the G train. So there's very little that you can do with the infrastructure there. We've been through this before.
I
Well,
think
the L doesn't run through there, but the G does.
the L does not. Yeah, the L train does not, but the G train
that-
does. But I think, yeah, but I just thank you, Kevin, and I think that you know, I mean, the area around, you know, the one of the opposite triangle obviously has McCarran Park. I mean, I would wonder, and you know, where we could dig in and put things like, you know, even shallower retention tanks or trees, which are currently planted in the space and could take stormwater. Large planters, which could have pollinator species and native species, which could take a lot of water. You know, again, maybe it's not the same scale as a Dutch playground or something, but you know, every inch counts. So, you know, thank you. Thanks, Marie.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Marie. All right, Maria and Natalie, you have the last word.
Thanks. I just have a question. Okay, you've mentioned your Instagram and community reach out and feedback. There's been feedback that has all been erased every time that it isn't going along, that it's any community concerns. Only positive comments have been left on. You talked about the different coalitions. They're all the same coalition, just with different names. They do that too, and they block people. If you're actually having these community projects and welcoming input, and you're saying you're being transparent, how are you erasing comments from residents and blocking people?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Maria, I think that's a great question. Were you commenting? Was your comment deleted today?
No, I've noticed that
No,
so many
yeah.
and other
Well,
people,
I'm
my
glad to hear.
neighbors told me as well, and I watched and I looked.
Did you see it?
Yes, I saw it with my own two eyes. Yes,
Well,
thank you.
I'm glad to hear that you didn't comment, because what I will say is that ultimately, what a lot of that was harassment. It was
Nobody mentioned you by name, Kevin. No one said anything about you. They talked about
it
the
was some pretty
project and
nasty stuff.
how it's not thought out, or there are concerns about it. You just don't want negative feedback, and I don't think that's a community project then.
Okay, listen. We're not going to talk about people's motives or how they're managing a private coalition petition.
Is it a private coalition or is this a community board thing? I don't really understand. I don't understand.
Listen, Maria, I'm telling you what's happening. So this is started with the community. It is with the community right now, and the community being this group of organizations, which is part of the community that is talking about this project. Any comments at this committee meeting must be specific to particulars of the plan as proposed at this stage. And I did mention that this will have to go through the process. It was in the presentation that this will be submitted to DOT in April. At that time, DOT will take up the mantle of collecting community comments, and any comments, negative, positive, or indifferent, will be recorded by DOT as part of their plan, as part of the Plaza application program. So I don't want to get into like who posted nasty pictures of who and whatever, which is, you know, not the business of this committee. And so I'm just going to leave it there. There will be extensive time to comment once this has been submitted to DOT in April. This was just a preview, and thank you for that. And with that, we will move on.
Thank you. I just wasn't saying who posted nasty things. I'm asking about
I understand,
comments
Maria,
being deleted.
I understand, but Maria,
of comments of concerns.
Maria, I understand. I understand. However, this committee has to function within the parameters of you know, the city agencies and things like that. So it's appropriate for people to bring concerns and proposals that they would like to see in the community to the committee. But you know, rules of decorum, like I'm not going to say that another member is saying something because they have an agenda or whatever. That is not how this works, right? It's strictly on the points. If and again, this is a private, like, well, it's public, but you know, not organized by the board or by the city. It's like community members putting this together to make a proposal. And when the time comes for DOT to present to us how they've interpreted this presentation, at that time we can go back and talk about specifics of the plan just the specifics of the plan, not people's intentions, not who is doing what, where, whatever. You know, that conversation can happen on Instagram or wherever, but it's not going to happen here. So with that, I want to thank Kevin for his presentation. We'll be looking forward to the proposal being submitted in April, and then hearing from the DOT at some future board meeting, and then hearing it back at the Transportation Committee.
Thanks, Eric. I'm happy to present this to the board, and I'm proud of the work that I do with my neighbors. So thank you.
I think it's a plan that I have questions about. Kevin, I've told you my concerns. I think you've addressed some of them, but I want to see what happens with this going forward. And with that, I'm afraid we will have to move on. Anybody that did not get a chance to have their comments heard, please email their comments for the record and for the report to bk01@cb.nyc.gov. Thank you very much. All right. So now we will be moving on to kind of some housekeeping stuff within the committee. Item number 4 is criteria for Transportation Committee advisory letters to NYC and New York State DOT. And this comes about after a discussion at the October 12th full board meeting. Vice Chair Weiser made a motion that was, or entertain a motion which was taken up and then withdrawn, and the chair, Chair Fuller, advised the committee to take it up in terms of a positive criteria or a workable criteria for how we send letters to New York State DOT. Committee will check your email. You will notice that I forwarded. Simon, is that you? 7188 blah 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 80. Okay, we don't know. Anyway, so I forwarded. I'd asked Simon to draft a language for a motion that we could discuss tonight, and I will ask you to check your email, committee, for that.
Simon, I'm here.
I hear you. Okay. Okay, so for the sake of time, I will read, and we have 20 minutes left to get this done. Okay, so Simon's framework for his motion, which cannot be the motion as written, but we will fix it. And it states the following: at any time DOT does any kind of work in the CB1 area that will result in changing the pattern of street traffic or removing safety traffic barriers, or work that will reduce the size of the street, or any work that will remove parking, all of the above should come before CB1 Transportation Committee. So I think that's mostly fine, because there was some of those of you that were at the full board meeting will remember that there was confusion about we don't want to have transportation appear every time they want to put in a stop sign, or they need to put in a street light. It's, the bureaucracy is already thick with the way DOT comes in. Simon, I'll let you speak in a minute, but I think this comes out of the fact that even though DOT did present to us on some of the bike safety stuff, they did not address that particular left turn on Wythe onto Williamsburg East, and that came out of this. But I don't even know if we need to. I mean, we can entertain this. Wait, hang on.
I just put a question. What does DOT have to come? Can you tell us what the rule is for DOT presenting to us now? Like, how does this change?
So yes, if well, DOT really isn't.
Let me just say something.
Hang on. So, DOT comes to us for plaza proposals. They come to us for parking removal, and major street changes. So, plaza program, open streets, change direction, things like that. A lot of that is actually kind of courtesy. They're not necessarily mandated to do it. And Rhonda, if you're still on the call, you can correct me at any time. But it's mostly for major capital improvements or things like that, where they come to the board and present. So Rhonda, if you're still, or I see Ms. Workman, you're on the call. If there's anything I'm missing, please feel free to correct me.
Eric, can you hear me?
I can. Please go ahead, Ms. Workman.
Oh, thank goodness.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of what we come to you with is a courtesy. According to the city charter, there's things that we're mandated to notify the community board about. It's not specific that we're mandated to present, but we're mandated to notify, and then the community board has an opportunity to ask for a presentation within a certain amount of time, and if that request is made, then we are required to do the presentation. I can't speak to the letter of what the mandate is. That's certainly available. Like I said, it was a city council ruling, but I believe if we take away a moving lane of traffic or parking that amounts to 4 blocks or 1,000 feet, whichever is less, then that triggers that notification. Also, anything that involves removal of a bike lane or addition of a bike lane. And that would include going from like a sharrow to a separated bike lane, but actually not what we did on Wife is we added protection, but we didn't take away or add the bike lane. So I don't think that actually triggered the notification requirement.
Okay.
Can I just add something to that?
Go ahead, Marie.
Over the years, I've been here like over 30-something years, and there was more communication between city agencies and the community board under the charter mandates. However, now it seems to be just a minor check off where they tell us we're doing this, and that's it. There's no dialogue. So I see that as, dangerous precedent, and it's just been getting worse and worse and worse as time goes on. As we could see with shelters popping up that we don't know about, that they just send a letter saying we're doing this and we have no input. So I think going with the spirit of the charter and the letter of the charter, that we aren't getting our proper dialogue with the city agencies. I'm not specifically talking about DOT, but I'm just saying in general. This is what we have found. And then if we discover something and then we have to take it to task, they've already done the planning and they just say, well, we notified you and that's it. So that's my beef. Sorry. But
Thank you,
I
Marie.
don't want to take up any time.
Yeah, thank you, Marie. So, so that's where it is. As it stands now, we typically, once we get notification, like the paid parking was a perfect example. We got notification. We insisted that DOT come and justify it, and they did, and they came back to subsequent meetings. There are other times where DOT will reach out to us saying they want to present on a particular item without the committee or the board's ask. And so in terms of this motion, Well, Simon, I'll let you talk, but we have 15 minutes left, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to be very brief. Go ahead, Simon.
Yes. So first of all, thank you for bringing up this issue. I'll make it very briefly. I wanted to still try to push on some other stuff. So basically, the DOT did notify the community board about the upcoming plan, and I sent the email to the commissioner and to Rhonda, and the commission immediately responded with a conference call, because I did request they should come to the community board with this plan. So at the conference call, the response was because they don't think they should come to the community board because there's no removal of parking. So it's basically, even as we heard before from Rhonda, that's a gray area. You know, sometimes they do, they don't. The charter says they should come, they should notify, and if the community board requests they should come, she mentioned before they should come, which I did do that, but the commissioner said, well, we're not moving parking and we never come. So
I wasn't part of that conference call. I don't recall that happening.
You were on the call, but anyway, my point is now that this new plan was. What's the conference? I'm just saying, now that it's implemented this plan, we realized there was some safety build out that was removed, and that's why I feel that it happened, but it still has to be rectified. And going forward, I think that anything, the DOT does notify the community board. If they feel it's important to notify us, I think I feel it should be presented to the community board. Just going forward in any other project that DOT feels that's a good criteria. The DOT feels to notify the community board, they should present it to the community board. Come in person, not just send a letter. That's basically, I think, the best criteria.
Well, the process is that anything we send you formal notification of, obviously it could be responded to with a request for us to present. We're not going to some things just aren't, it's not necessary to waste the board's time presenting. So, but I have a very different recollection of the conference call that I had, and I don't even believe that we spoke about this particular project in that conference call, in that what you're saying, I don't recall it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that.
Okay, we have 10 minutes or 12 minutes. I think. Okay, now that we can make it. Wait, hang on, Simon. Hang on. So rather than rush through, crafting the language for this, Simon, can you and I work together over the next couple weeks?
Yes, sure.
And we'll just get something really solid together. Like, I'll work off your email, I'll send you something, and then we can just take it up in like a 5-minute thing, just as a housekeeping item at the
right. That's a good idea. Yes, sure.
Okay. All right, great.
I'll just make very fast. Very fast. Eric, I'm sorry. Very fast. On the email that I sent out today, there are 2 items that DOT and sanitation is waiting for a letter of support. This has been discussed at the previous meetings and at the full board meetings, but never ever a letter of support was sent out. Well, this is the Lee Avenue for Friday afternoon because of the Sabbath, and also around this Flushing Avenue at the night cleaning to remove because of the building became a commercial building, became a residential building. These 2 items, I would request if you could put it on the floor tonight to request a vote.
Okay, sure. So, yeah, let's. It's a little out of order, but we can take it up quickly now. We'll call it old business. We'll put it in old business. I'm just trying to race the clock here. So, those of you that are checking your email, you'll notice item at the end of Simon's email. It's number 1, Lee Avenue. Remove the parking restrictions on Friday afternoons. Currently well, currently it is restricted 4 to 7 p.m. But because of Shabbos, there is no need for the restrictions, and DOT needs a letter to change those times. So I will make a motion. Draft letter to NYC DOT to alter parking evening parking.
It's the evening rush hour reg.
Okay, thank you. Evening rush hour regulations on Lee Avenue. And from where to where, Simon?
That's from Taylor to Flushing.
From Taylor to Flushing.
Street to Flushing Avenue.
Flushing to accommodate for, we'll just say for religious accommodation. For religious accommodation, right? And then DOT will do the hour. They'll consult with Rabbi and everybody down there to figure out what the best timing is. Is that fine?
Yes, great.
You want me to read it? I'll read it back. Okay. Motion that the community board draft a letter to NYC DOT to alter evening rush hour regulations on Lee Avenue from Taylor to Flushing Avenue for religious accommodation. Is there a second?
On Friday.
Yes. Well, religious accommodation would be Friday or whatever was necessary.
Well, Friday. You got to make it clear.
Well, no, they were talking specifically about Friday. But I just want to be clear that we didn't say that we need a letter in order to do it. Simon's saying that, but we didn't say that. We're actually already discussing it internally. It's great if you guys want to give us a letter asking us to look at it formally. That's
We'll give you a letter if I can get a second.
We have to do an evaluation. It has to do with it being a corridor that goes directly to the, route into the city.
Got it.
And that's why it's a rush hour reg.
I'm on a clock, so I need a second.
I seconded Simon.
Simon. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Carries. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then the second item is, hang on one second. This needs a little discussion though, because nobody is going to remember this. So the Flushing Avenue, number 2, Flushing Avenue from Franklin Street to Kent Avenue, and Kent Avenue from Flushing Avenue to Wallabout Street. The block has become residential block, and we want to remove the night cleaning restrictions. This was discussed a long time ago. Okay, so can we just?
Is that Franklin Street or Franklin Avenue?
Franklin Avenue. Oh wait, no, Franklin Street. It says that's Flushing Avenue from Franklin Street to Kent Avenue.
Eric,
is it
quick point of order?
Yeah.
Is it possible for us to draft motions before the meeting so that way we're not wasting time coming up with it on the fly during the meeting?
Yes, it is, Kevin, which is what I asked Simon to do, and he did, and he sent it today, but I mean, like, he did do what I asked him to do, which was like to draft it in advance. So, but this item, and going forward, we will do that because of this time crunch. So, Simon, I hate to do this, but I think we need to come back and talk about this just internally on this item. So if I understand what you want to happen there, but there's a couple moving parts. So let's.
No, sanitation asked me to get the letter. It was spoken about in the transportation committee. Yes, and it was
so make a motion.
At the general. Okay, so I make the motion to remove the night parking and make the day parking. That's simple because of this block became a residential block. Simple.
Okay, so remove night parking, cleaning. Okay, draft letter to sanitation.
To remove the overnight cleaning regulation.
And DOT to
It's
Remove
not
overnight
DOT,
cleaning.
it's sanitation.
Right, but yeah, okay. But you'll have to do the signs, so we'll send it to you
Yes,
too.
but we need to get
I
the
know.
directive from
Yeah, listen,
sanitation.
I'm fighting the clock. Draft letter to DSNY and DOT to remove night cleaning regs on Flushing Ave from Franklin Street to Kent Ave and Kent Ave from Flushing to Wallabout. Okay. Is there a second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, so district needs statement. Let's have a 4-minute conversation about the district needs statement, which is obviously not going to happen tonight. I really wanted to get into this and kind of have a vote on what we think should be presented to the board next week. Is there any? So I asked folks to take a look at pages 19, 21, and 27 to 32. I had a conversation with Marie just quickly about the district needs statement, and and Marie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but some of this stuff stays on the district needs statement until we get a sign off from the agencies that either the work has been completed or that the situation has been resolved. So that's why a lot of the stuff that has either been addressed or is in the process of being worked on is still there. But if anybody is like burning to like add something, you have a minute to tell me.
I'm not on the committee, but my hand is up. I'd love to add something if I can.
Okay, 30 if you can do it in 30 seconds, you're recognized.
Yes, it's an issue that I've brought up many times, which is street calming around under the Cambridge Park, which is a major public safety concern. And I know, Rhonda, we've talked about it a number of times. And I'm grateful that we got through the season without anyone getting hurt, but we have to do something ASAP.
Okay, so street calming under Cambridge. Anybody else?
Yeah, Eric, I got one real quick, and we've met with DOT numerous times about it. It's Kingsland Avenue from Greenpoint Avenue to the Newtown Creek Nature Walk, new entrance.
Okay.
Redesign of the street, better parking, pedestrian, bicycle safety improvements.
Okay.
Yeah, we will be putting these into the format if they change the format for the district needs, but basically it's a budget request, and then I have to look to see if there's something already out there, and we can add the language to that. So, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay.
Eric, could I suggest?
Hang on. One second, Brian. Okay, since we're not gonna vote on including these, so we're gonna. Am I right, Marie, that this is an internal thing, or does it require a vote for us to add it?
You don't need a vote. You can submit it into the committee.
Great. Okay. So Katie,
the document will be voted on at the board meeting.
Got it. Okay. So Katie, put what you said in writing. Willis, put it in writing. And anybody else, we have a minute. So anybody else that wants to add to district needs, you'll have to do that. Okay. Because
Eric, this is Paul. I don't think I got this email. But this sounds like something I might want to contribute to. Could you
let's talk tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. So well, I think we got it done. Old business, new business. Any pressing old business? Okay, new business. Kevin, make your motion.
Yeah, I would like to motion, and again, sorry, this is on the fly, but motion for better to call DOT and DEP and DDC to coordinate their capital projects in a concerted way before implementing the design phase of any capital project, something along those lines.
All right, hang on. So, Marie, just keep it open for a second so I can get this done. Coordinate. Ask DOT. Sorry, hang on. Wait 1 second. Let me think. DDC. Okay, community board draft a letter to DDC, DOT, DEP to coordinate and advise CB1 for capital transportation.
I don't even think that this should be a
No,
community
this is
board specific
listen,
thing.
it's a transportation committee, so it's got to be specific to transportation. Capital transportation improvements in advance of design phase. Okay. Okay, so CB1 draft a letter to DDC, DOT, DEP to coordinate to advise Community Board 1 on transportation related capital improvements in advance of the design phase. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Sure.
I'll second.
All seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, we got it. It is now 9:02. Motion to adjourn.
I second.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Eric.
Bye-bye. Be
Bye.
safe, people. Be safe.
Thank you.
Everybody. Bye.